Welcome to A Woman's Brew, where women talk about beer. In today's episode, we try a bucket list beer that's as complex in flavour as it is in name pronunciation. I'm Joanne, and this is Tori.
Hello, hello.
And we're two beer-loving women on a mission to get more people drinking and talking about great beer. Come join us. So this is the start of what we think might be a new series, isn't it?
Yes, sort of. Because I think it's more to help you than it is to help me. To be fair,
it is. I think it's a good idea to do it. So we've been talking about if you're not new around here, listeners, and you've been listening to various different episodes we've done. We've both talked about how we've looked at you know those books that are like 1,001 beers to try before you die, 300 beers to try before you die.
The best beers in Bible the world. Of a book.
Yeah. So we've had a look at those and have picked out like ones that we want to try or ones that we've tried before, and like seeing how many different ones we've done. I've been trying to keep track of it in my journal. I haven't started very well. I started making a page to tick them all off, and then I haven't got much further past that. And I think you're tracking it on your spreadsheet.
So I've got a separate spreadsheet for these. I've taken it slightly different, where in the sense of I've got those ones in the book. Those are like the recommended beers that are from all the books. I went through all the different various books I have and wrote them all down and like kind of went, what's the ones that I mentioned the most across all the books. But then I also had sort of taken it a step further, in which I put a post out like maybe end of last year, beginning of this year, and was like, what are your bucket list beers? What are the beers that are like ones that if you saw them in a shop or you saw them somewhere, like you shouldn't walk away without buying, trying, like whatever. Like what are those must try beers that you think if someone has the opportunity to try them, they should, even if it's not like, I was trying to be clear on it as well, because some people were like, well, it depends on your style. And I'm like, no, like it's not about what someone's taste is like, in your opinion, and it could be for any reason.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to be about taste. You could be like in the right setting at the right place. I made it more about like, what are the beers in the right setting, place, time, whatever. Like you can specify conditions if you want. Like what beers are beers that people have to try. And the beer we're going to have today is one that I would say is mentioned across the majority, if not all the books.
Well, we'll get into that, because
interestingly that we found out today.
Interestingly, we found out earlier.
It was also on all of my posts. Like every post that I had come back with was recommending this beer as well. Of like, you have to. It's classic.
I think it's just put out there as one of the best beers in the world.
It's reflected in several pieces of feedback that we'll get to later.
It is very high up on on lists of people of the best beer in the world. It is, if not at the top, it is very highly rated on various different rating websites. So today, I feel like we need a drum roll.
Oh yeah,
there we go.
Can you hear that?
Westvleteren 12. So
this is really an episode just so that we can get your live reaction. Really,
that's so this beer has been on my bucket list for a while, and I've just not managed to get it. Then we were supposed to, as you may remember, if you've been listening for a while, that we'd planned a trip to go to Belgium together. I wasn't very well, and so Tori had to go with a boy instead, and then she found one and had it without me.
And the worst part is I had it the first time I had it.
Yes,
on that tour de guerre, it was with Rick, who literally, so he likes beer. It's not that he doesn't like beer or anything like that. He doesn't love, like, he loves flavors. He loves beer and all that. Like, I don't think he understood the importance of it in the same way that you would have understood the importance of it. And I was like, oh no, I feel awful because now he's had it before you've had it, and he doesn't even know the significance. He just knew really hard to get. Well, depending on who you're, really hard to get, depending on the circles you're in. Like all of that, he just knew that I was like, well, if I get to try anything, this is the thing. We went to a place because I was told if I'm going to get it anywhere in Brussels, that this would be the place that I could get it. And you'll know if you listen to the episodes of me and Rick talking about it. The lady knew the assignment. She gave me that was, I think, the quote from that episode was was Rick going, she knew the assignment.
Yeah. She gave me the cap,
that was
everything.
so stunning. She gave me the cap, the wink, like all of it. And that was the saddest part, was like, you were like, I can't, like, we were like, if we go then we can try to find this. It's so good.
Yeah.
And it was like, bucket list beer. And then I had it with a boy first.
She had it with a boy first without
and then I had it with many boys second.
And then she had it again at a bottle share. And I just keep getting these photos sent to me that just says, I'm sorry. And I was like, what have you done? Oh, okay. Oh, and now we've done it again. A second I'm sorry.
But then I tried to make up for it.
She did. Yeah.
Only because I made up for it and I wasn't going to tell you about it. And then I was like, well, I have to tell you about it because I can't wait for your birthday. Yeah. This is your birthday present, but I'm giving it to you very early because I'm very excited about it. And I think either right before or right after I told you about it, you were like, funny story.
Yeah, right before. So I'd had a conversation with Damien, the Emperor, friend of the show.
Emperor himself.
The Emperor himself was we're having a chat about it, and I was whinging about how you'd had it without me.
Meanwhile, you didn't know that I was procuring you the set of 3.
I didn't know she was procuring it for me, and so I was talking to him, and he was like, "Oh, well, I think I might be able to. I think I've got one that you could have." Like, and I was just like, let me know, I'll pay for it, whatever. And then I ended up getting a message from him where he's like, "I've got one for you and Tori, and I'm going to send you some other beers because." Damien's
because he's just an amazing human being. And I was ill at the time, and we talked about this on another episode.
Yeah, definitely vying for Andy Parker's place as nicest man in brewing, just saying.
He's so lovely.
But then, so my box appeared, so I knew who was sending it because he'd taken our addresses, and then my box appeared, and I didn't know if yours had come yet, but I just sent you a message being like, you should have a box arriving.
You're like, you've got a box arriving today. No, it wasn't even that. As I got a box today.
Yeah.
I think you should be getting one. And I was like, well, maybe I'm not getting one.
No,
you are.
Surprise. I was like, you are getting a box.
You are.
I just don't know if it's going to arrive today.
Yeah. And then I think that was around I think I had either just told you or I was saying I'm gonna tell you, but I was waiting to pick it. I can't remember. I feel like I might have told you first before the box arrived, but you were like, "Wait until the." But I don't think it was much after I had told you.
There wasn't much time between them, and I was like,
"You have the conversation, didn't tell me." I was like, I'm going to procure her this because it's come up. I've been made aware. Yeah. I'm going to get us. And I was like, I'll get you one, but then I'll have FOMO, so I'll get me one. And then it's like, well, we can use it as an excuse to podcast. It'll be your birthday present. And then, the whole time you had already been in conversation.
Yeah.
So this is a very... I feel like this is a great episode to be like, is it worth the hype? Are we going to get on that hype train before it leaves the station? Or are we just going to catch the next one? Because I feel like in the way that I've talked about Pliny, where I've kind of gone, it's really great, but because it's been so hyped up for me, when I tried it, I just go, it's good. Like, I don't know what else you want from me. It's good. So it'll be really interesting to see like how you feel about this.
Yeah.
By the time you get to drink it.
I was trying to think back to when I first heard about it, and I don't have a moment in time where I'm like, oh, that's the first time I ever heard about Westy 12. Like, I just know that, like, when I was first getting, like, when I was, in the early days of my beers and getting into all the different ones, I remember, like, looking at different beers and what people thought were really good, and, and you just kind of start building this list in your head, right, of beers that, like, people have said, well, this one's really good, and if you want to try this type of beer, this one's really good, and like, you just kind of start that list in your head of the ones that you're like, if I see that, I need to try it, and this was on it, and I've just never managed to grab it, and now I've got 2 in my house.
Transparently, though, I personally don't think it was even like that many years ago that I like. For me, in terms of my drinking of beer and my seeking out of beers that were bucket list beers, like, to me, this actually isn't that one that's been on my list for like a massively long time. It's maybe only been within the last like 2-ish years that I've really kind of been like, oh yeah, I know that's, but it's just because I don't tend to look at it on that level of like, oh my god, what are like the all-time. I just kind of learn about it when people get them and talk about them, and then I go, oh yeah, okay. So this one's relatively new on the list comparatively, and then the fact that I've had it
I think part
a few
of mine,
times now.
yeah, no, you've had it a couple of times. I think mine kind of.
I just got in real time breaking news. I just got a WhatsApp message from Rick that said, "I understood the importance of that beer in Belgium." FYI. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I didn't mean to interrupt this breaking news. But it made me chuckle, and I wasn't going to be able to pretend like I wasn't laughing, and I didn't want anyone to think I was laughing at you and the seriousness of what you were talking about. I just love that it popped up of, I understood, by the way, FYI.
I did understand. Thanks, Rick.
So, okay, it wasn't wasted on.
Yeah, good.
I take it back.
I think where I've built up my beer bucket list of things, it's from where I've done my tasting training and I've gone through and been like, I want to try the best commercial examples of these styles so that I understand them. And that's where I've picked up things like this. And like, there's definitely styles that I've been like, oh, if I see that style, I want to try that, because it's one that I know is difficult to get hold of and I haven't been able to try it. So I think the way that I approach my beer bucket list is slightly different from yours, because mine's come from that don't want to be wanky, but training of my palate.
No, I don't disagree.
You know what I mean?
I don't disagree. I don't look at it in a way of like, oh, it's wanker or anything. It's very different because you obviously were doing beer school stuff, and to do beer school stuff, you were going, here's the styles, and like you said, train your palate on the styles so that you could tell other people, here's good commercial examples, or prepping for when we've done podcast episodes on them in the last few years, and like that kind of stuff, absolutely. Whereas I don't think I ever really, up until maybe like 2-3 years ago, I don't think I ever had that, like even the concept of a beer bucket list. I was just sort of like, my bucket list is just go someplace and find the wildest thing. Right. I think I approach it in the way that Belgian people approach it, where I'm just sort of like, whatever is what, like, I don't care the style, I don't care about that.
Just want to drink
Give me
beer.
something that tastes good and sounds interesting, and so I don't think I ever really had a list until a few years ago, because I think from doing the podcast and how the conversation and those type of things have made me have to think more about it on a wider level, just for some of the exercises and creative stuff that we've done. If we didn't have the podcast and I didn't look at it in that way, like, would I ever even be compiling a beer bucket list? Like, I don't know. I think it's more just, it's fun and interesting to talk about with other people. And it all stems from when we're talking about podcast. I'm like, oh, it'd be really interesting to get other people's feedback on that. I mean, I still think my main approach to it is like, whatever's fun, wherever I am, what's the interesting thing of where I am. And I'll always prefer that to seeking out something in particular. But I say that as a person that has tried this twice now. So.
Yeah. I was having a conversation with someone on Friday. We were both at International Women's Collaboration Brew Day at Brew Co, which was excellent. Always a good time. Kate puts on a good show.
Separate conversation, but so good.
Yeah, so good. But I was chatting to someone there who has started their studies for the certified Cicerone, and just kind of put it off a little bit because they got busy, and then they want to get back into it. And like, so we were talking. There's a few of us that have passed ours, and we were like giving advice about it. And I was like, I mean, my main piece of advice for if you're doing any sort of beer studying is to drink all the beers, because that just helps you to train your palate, but also look at those commercial examples, when you are studying about beer, there's a particular type of language and a particular way that they want you to talk about it, and so you do need to look at the style guidelines and look at examples that epitomize those style guidelines. I think we're getting into a point now as a podcast where we are getting a bit Belgian, and we're just like, is it good? Does it taste good? What are you calling it? A field beer? Or whatever beer. Yeah, that's cool. Like we're not being as rigid about these beer styles. But if you are learning about beer, you need to speak in the language that the examiners want. I'm an ex-secondary school teacher, and I know there's all this, I don't teach to the test, but sometimes you've got to teach to the test.
You do teach to the test, because I think, at the end of the day, you just go, it is only beer, though.
You want a bit of wider knowledge, but also you've got to speak in the language that they want you to speak in. So you have got, getting commercial examples, and this is a commercial example of the beer style that I'll talk about in a minute and give you all the lovely deets. This is a prime example of that, and then that helps you to understand it. Yeah, so it's just, but also just drink delicious beers.
When in doubt.
When in doubt, drink delicious beers.
That's what I always try to do.
So, seeing as this is one of the most hyped beers out there, I think we can safely say that.
I feel like that's fair.
Before we crack into it, do you want to know about the history of it first?
Oh, I reckon we go, what's the history?
Yeah.
And then where's it listed? And then I think we should try it before we get into the tasting notes. And the reason I say that is because I want your unfiltered reaction without going, this is what we're looking
my
for.
Brain.
I just want you to be like, shut your brain off. This is great. And then go, here's the tasting notes of it.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So let's do a little bit of history, because this is, do you know what? It's not as old a beer as you think it is in the grand scheme of Trappist and Belgian beers, but it is fairly old compared to, I don't know, hazy IPAs.
Well, yeah, I was in my brain just got that the wrong way around for a second, and I genuinely thought you were like, it's not as old as, let's say, hazy IPAs, and I was like, I don't think you've got that right. Sorry, carry on.
So Westvleteren 12. They also do 8 and
a blonde, which you have.
We have both those as well. Yeah. Which I'm very excited about, but we're just going to do the one today.
Just the one.
It is brewed by St Sixtus Abbey Brewery, which is a Trappist brewery. From Belgium. Now, Trappist is a designation. It has to be a brewery where the beer is presided over by monks. They are not just in Belgium. We've got a Trappist brewery here in the UK.
One.
Yeah, they are. There are some in the Netherlands. I think there is one in the US.
I think there is one in the US
as well. But it is a designation. You have to go by some very traditional rules. This brewery in particular, they follow the Trappist brewing philosophy of, they brew beer only to support the monastery. They do not pursue profit or large-scale distribution, and they maintain a quiet monastic lifestyle. So that is one of the reasons why it is.
And it does check out.
so hard to get hold of, because they don't brew a lot of it.
And you physically have to go.
Yes, you physically have to go to the brewery.
The brewery. And I mean, now I guess you can do click and collect orders, but up until more recent times, you literally just had to turn up queue and everything. And what I heard is it was so much more painful. Now it's a little bit easier, but you do still have to drive there, do your click and collect order, and
go to the brewery. There was a number that you used to have to ring and put your order in, and then you could go get it.
I think they do from what I heard from somebody else as well, the people that go and when you collect the orders, you can only buy a set amount from them. I don't know how accurate this is. From what I understand, you can only buy a set amount every year from them. And I guess that's maybe to help with people buying it and flogging it at ridiculous prices, but you have to give them number plates and all that details. So that way, they have your details, so you're not coming back numerous times.
And people are not allowed in the monastery either, so
it's wild. They don't even do tours. They're really not capitalizing on that.
No. So I've got a little bit of information about the monastery. Some of it is from their website, and some is from other sources. So in 1814, John Baptist Victor settled as a hermit in the woods of Westvleteren, where monastic communities had already been living long before. So the history of the abbey started when some monks from some French monks joined him in 1831. So St Sixtus has been there since 1831. Aside from the monastic activities, the monks also cultivated the fields around the abbey. They produced cheese.
Oh,
Bit of cheese goes really well with this stuff. And all of this so that they could be self-sufficient.
What more do you need?
Yeah. So already in the early days, they were brewing small quantities, but not for sale. It was just for their own consumption. The archives at the abbey reveal that the first expenses for a brewery were made in June 1838. Then in May 1839, the abbey received a brewer's license signed by King Leopold I on April 19th, 1839. It's most likely thought that the first test brew was produced in the same month. And in June 1839, the first official brew was produced, and there is a record of 25 Belgian francs being paid for the rights of the 2 brews to prove that that is the case. But that's when they were brewing, and they were just brewing to help to feed and water the monks. They did up their production a little bit. In the 19th century, they built a forge and a second monastery, along with some sheds, and they were still keeping the brewery small and just for domestic use. But then they also had a tavern across the road, which is still there and which is supposed to be the only place that you're supposed to be able to buy the beer from. But that
I can already say that's not fact.
Was that was open in 1878, and in 1896 they opened a third brew house.
Ooh.
So they were getting slightly bigger and making a bit more beer. In the 1920s, they started to use steam for the first time and modernised a fourth brew house, which was built in October 1927, and that brew house was operational until 1990.
Oh, that's not that long ago.
So that's not that long ago. In the early 70s, they made some adjustments. They opened a refrigerated cool ship, and they had a laboratory installed in the 70s as well. So they got very technical in the 70s, right?
I'm just picturing these monks being like, well, we need to do some testing of it and just make sure that the levels are where we want them to be. What are the pH levels looking like? What is this? Yep. And you're just like...
And they also had a bottling line put in 1979, and they could make 12,000 bottles per hour.
Wow.
So, they were only brewing small amounts. The current brew house was put into operation in 1990. But the beer itself, Westvleteren 12, was produced first in the 1940s. So it's a quadruple style beer. And they started brewing it before World War II, and their brewers also went out and opened Chimay, and they also licensed the brewing of the beer styles to St Bernardus.
I didn't know about either of those things.
Yeah.
But that's really interesting based on some feedback that we will get to. And now I feel less bad about using this glass. Because I was like, I don't have an appropriate glass.
Your Chimay glass.
Yeah. I was like, I don't think I've got, what glass can I use? And then I remembered I had this. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, so the brewing knowledge of St Sixtus Abbey has kind of filtered out into other monasteries. They also were quite instrumental in creating that designation of Trappist beers. So they've been quite instrumental in brewing. even though they're still quite, they're still quite insular and keep things to them. But these are, so seeing as this beer was only first brewed in the 1940s, that's relatively
It's not massively old,
right?
is it?
That's not that long ago.
Compared to when they first started brewing beer full stop.
Yeah.
And how old you assume it is. That's not... if you had asked me to guess when I thought they would have started, how old, like for that beer in particular, I wouldn't have said 40s.
Yeah.
I think I probably would have said 1800. It would start with an 18, not even a 19.
Yeah, exactly. You'd have thought it was one of the first ones. But yeah, so that's only been being brewed since the 1940s. And they have put modern restrictions on since the 1990s. They have maintained that they will never expand beyond the monastery walls. So there's quite a few kind of restrictions in place around this, which makes it quite difficult to get hold of, which kind of adds to the hype.
Yes, some people do pay a lot. I mean, I definitely wasn't price gouged for the ones that I've got or anything like that. And I think if you're in the right circles, you know the right, like you're procuring the right things, you don't have to be price gouged for it. I think if you're a person that's just kind of like, I want it at whatever costs, and you're not willing to kind of wait, and it's just like, oh, somebody happens to get it, they could rip you off for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess it depends on how bad you want to try it, because
yeah. I mean, I say that, I was like, oh, I've never tried it. I've not looked very hard.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I hadn't until I knew that I was going over for the Tour de Guerres, and I was kind of going, oh, I have heard that there are places that serve it.
Yeah.
Because the last time I went, I didn't go to Brussels for beer, whereas this time I was going specifically for beer, so that was going to be the majority of the activities of what was happening. So I was like, oh, let me just have a look. And like, that was the first time I actually really think I properly looked for it. And then when I got the set that I got for us, somebody came to me and said, oh, there's a set of 3. We've got a few sets of 3 if you want, to buy a set of 3. And I was like, I was like, how much is it for the set of 3? Yeah, I absolutely do.
So I think if you really want it, you can find it. But yeah, there are just restrictions that make the distribution of it much smaller than other beers. Shall we get into some tasting notes so we can get drinking this bad boy?
Well, I was going to say, do we want to get drinking before you give tasting notes?
We're going to drink it before, aren't we?
Because I want to see your unfiltered reaction. Just about really quickly, some of the places where it has been listed as the best beer, or a must try beer, even if not the best. So you had 300 beers to try before you die. So that's listed on page 228 of that. We've got World's Greatest Beers book. Joe Strange lists it on page 267. We got the bucket list beer, the beer bucket list on page 139. Interesting is the most interesting one, 1001 beers to try before you die, page 290. On my copy, which is the updated edition from 2013, it is very clearly, and I will show you, very clearly in mine, whereas you did not have it on yours.
Not in mine. So I've got my stack for when I've been looking at these beers, and I was like, right, it'll definitely be in 1001 beers, and it is like Westvleteren, none of the beers are in there, and I was like shocked. I was shooketh. I was like, why is it not in here? I'm really surprised. My version is from 2010. So I think in your updated version...
Well, if it helps though, when I was looking for it, my brain naturally went to the W's, and it's not listed in the W's. So I was like, my brain went, let me look in W's, and it's not. It's
Is it under S?
No, it's under B's.
Oh, it's under B's. Why is it under B's?
Brasserie?
Oh, because we're going for Brasserie. Okay.
Hold on. No, it's not. It's not Brasserie. It's the other one that I don't want to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's under the B's.
Yeah.
It's under the B's.
Yeah.
And that is why I initially went in the W. Oh, that's not there. Let me go the B's. Oh, it's in the B's. So there you go. But that was interesting because
So that got added in. But yes, it is in many of these books. So all right, here we go. Are
you excited? Are you ready for it?
I'm excited.
I'm like worried you're gonna be like my reaction of just like,
it smells nice. I equally have a chalice. I've just got this is a Belgian chalice. This is the best. Using a chalice is the best glass to have it in. By the way,
I don't want to say immediately what's in my brain, so I'm just because I don't want to.
Shall I do?
Yeah,
So
I don't want to influence you.
I'm getting brown bread, a vinous note, that kind of spicy phenols that you get from Belgian yeast, dried fruits, figs, raisins, like cocoa powder, not chocolate, cocoa powder.
This is a key question as well. How long have you had yours out of the fridge for?
Since we started, so probably
mine was out of the fridge about an hour ago, maybe slightly over an hour ago.
Yeah.
Immediately when I was pouring,
Yeah.
for me it just smelled like banana bread.
Oh yeah.
And then the more you smell it, the more you're like, oh, dried fruit.
Yeah.
Sweetness of dried fruit. But like from further away, and what I'm saying is like pouring this distance away from me, maybe like, 6 inches away from me, it's like all I could smell, like banana bread.
Yeah, I got
and
brown
I was like,
bread
I love it, and I am here for it, and now it makes me want some banana bread.
It is a lovely chestnutty reddy brown colour. It's got a nice foamy cream head that is not going anywhere. Looks beaut. Right. All right. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay.
I'm just going to watch you take your first sip.
That's nice. It's got more chocolate in the taste, I think. Like it's not like stout chocolate. There's like that spiciness that you get from Belgian yeast.
Yeah,
dried fruits.
It's not like
chocolate, like
it's not like cacao, like when you normally get like the bitter cacao chocolate.
It's like
smooth,
like cocoa powder dusted on the top of something, like
smooth,
dusted on the top of some like some lovely pastry.
I wanted to ask you, I got so excited, and I wanted to ask you before we did it, like, what was your expectation before you tried it? But it's too late now. You've had it now. It's too late now.
Yeah. I've had Belgian quads before. I do like St. Bendis at 12. I enjoy that one. So I was expecting all the things that I got. That Belgian, we always got all that Belgian-iness. But if you've drunk Belgian beers, you know what we're talking about. There's that like spiciness. There's
not really a way to describe. I feel like it's just the best way is just like it's just Belgian.
It's just Belgian. Go drink a Belgian beer if you're not sure. Belgian though. Yeah. And it's got that. It's got that lightness of body that you get from Belgian beers that just makes them really drinkable and dangerous.
Yeah.
And that comes from the sugar that they like the candy sugar that they add to them because it lightens up the body but bumps up the alcohol.
Yeah, I mean this is a 10.2%.
Yeah, and it's not little. It's not a little bit,
but it doesn't taste like 10.2. It doesn't taste double digit.
Yeah, that's always like new beer people. I'm always when they're like, "Oh, I'm going to have some Belgian beer." I was like, "Watch yourself before you wreck yourself, my friend, because they'll get you."
I really like this bottle as well. Like every time I see the bottle, it's just nice because it's like the 330ml. Right? It's the normal like 330ml bottle, but it almost feels more because there's little banding on the top that says Trappiston beer.
Yeah.
It almost just adds that like little ring around the top of it, makes it stand out and makes it feel like a little bit more, I don't know, luxurious. I don't know if it's because I know that it's harder to get there. My brain just goes, oh, that is luxurious, but.
Interestingly, all the information that I was coming across was saying that they don't label the bottles. They do because this has got a label.
They do, yeah.
I'm looking at it, but they used to not label the bottles.
They're very simple,
but they used to not do that. So I think, I don't know when that started. However, fun fact that I have found. I know you love a fun fact.
I do love a fun fact.
Let me find my fun facts. Interesting facts that in 2012 they had a special sale. And the monks made an exception and sold a batch of Westvleteren 12 in US stores to fund abbey renovations.
Oh,
so I wonder if they started putting labels on it in 2012.
Potentially, because I can say all the ones that I've had have been ones that have had labels on them. So like the one that I had last year had a label on it. So I would say actually, it was about this time last year. So that one.
I wonder if they started labeling it then. But if you know, listeners, any different to that, let us know when they started labeling. But I always this is the thing I always like about Belgian labels is they tell you what kind of glass to use. And it tells you on it, it's got a little tick on a chalice and it's got a cross on a lambic glass.
I didn't even see that. Here, I'll show it on the camera for anyone that's watching. That's funny. I didn't even notice
it's got an upright bottle with a tick, and then it's got a cross through laying it down. So because there'll still be yeast in the bottle of this. It'll be.
I didn't even spot that. I love that it's got the lambic glass, and it's like no,
do not put
lambic.
it in a jelly glass. Don't put it in one of those.
That's so funny. It doesn't have, so it's got a date of 2027, but it doesn't have a bottle date. It just has a best before date, interestingly.
I'm debating whether I age my other one.
I'm going to age my other one.
I think we'll age it and see how, because as you age it, it's the oxidation process then makes it like the flavors become more complex. So it should bring out flavors of sherry, dark chocolate, and deeper caramelized sugars, which I'm quite excited about.
So I guess where you're at right now, because I've got some feedbacks that have gone across all the different social medias that I can read out, and it's interesting because it relates to some people have aged it, some people haven't.
Should we do the tasting notes?
Oh yeah, I forgot we hadn't done that yet.
The tasting notes. So I'll do what BJCP says first, because we love a bit of BJCP, and then I'll go into some that I've got that are specific to this beer.
To this one.
So this is a Belgian quadruple, but that can also be called a Belgian dark strong ale. So for the BJCP guidelines, we are in section 26, monastic ale, and Belgian dark strong ale is 26D. Our overall impression is a dark, complex, very strong Belgian ale with a delicious blend of malt richness, dark fruit flavours and spicy notes. It should be complex, rich, smooth and dangerous. I love that the BJCP guidelines note that it should be dangerous. Like
categorically, they're like, yeah, okay, you've got your American light lagers, no flavors, and then they're like, your Belgian quad, danger juice.
These people are not wrong.
They're not fucking around.
No. And so the notes for this, I'm going to pick bits out, but they are extensive for the Belgian dark strong ale, because it is very complex. There's a lot going on, my peeps. So I'll pick bits out, but go and have a look at the BJCP guidelines to
let's link
see
it. Can we link it?
We can link it. I'll find the page and I'll link it. So the aroma. An intense mix of rich maltiness and deep fruit, accentuated by spicy phenols and alcohol. We're looking at things like bready toasty, dark caramel notes, esters, raisins, plums, dried cherries, figs, dates, prunes, black pepper or vanilla, not clove though. There might also be an alcohol note that could be soft, spicy, perfumey, rose-like. I often find that when I get into like a high alcohol beer, I get that kind of rosy, like rose note from alcohol. That's just the way that I pick it up. And I did pick a little bit of that up in this.
I feel like I get more spicy.
Yeah. And then appearance, deep amber to deep copper brown. It should not be black. It should have a huge, dense, moussey, persistent cream to light tan coloured head. And it should usually be quite clear. So it should be quite nice and see-through. And the flavour is rich and complex. With lots of those other things that we've already mentioned. Malty rich, a sweet impression if bitterness is low. Moderately dry to dry finish. Medium low to moderate bitterness. Alcohol provides some of the balance to the malt. Generally malty rich, complex, and varied flavours should blend smoothly and harmoniously and often benefit from age. The finish should not be heavy or syrupy. And I think that's a real thing about Belgian beers in general. Like, they can be high ABV, but they're not syrupy and they're not heavy, which is why you can get into danger drinking them, because they're dangerously easy drinking.
It's interesting though, because I would say like almost 100% it's not syrupy or anything like that. But it's almost like how intense the flavour is that's left in that like lingering aftertaste in your mouth can be almost as like, for me anyways, this is almost as intense as like when you do have quite like a syrupy thick like beer that kind of sticks with you in your mouth and the aftertaste. You're like, oh, like I'm getting that same, like it's creamy and it's a fuller mouthfeel, but it's not at all syrupy. And I think like, but it leaves that same intense lingering aftertaste in a similar way. I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah. Like, there's an intenseness. It's rich and intense, but it's not syrupy.
Yeah. But it's interesting how strong an aftertaste it leaves compared to other things.
Well, so Roger Prost noted in 300 Beers to Try Before You Die that the beer is made with pale malt, dark candy sugar, and Northern Brewer hops. So using candy sugar in the brewing process is a very Belgian thing. I mean, we all know. Well, we all know. Maybe we don't. Maybe you're new here. When you're making beer, you need sugars for the yeast to eat so they can create alcohol. How the Belgians bump up the ABV but lighten the body is by adding candy sugar. So this is literally sugars that have, like, it's not the same as just, chucking in some, a bag of Silver Spoon. Like, this is
picture them being like, whoop,
yeet, chucking a bit of caster sugar. No, these are different. Like, there's light candy
sugar bay. They're like
it's dark candy sugars. Like, these are particularly made to like add colour, and then for the yeast to be there. Like, it is a fermentable sugar, so the yeast will use it and it bumps up the flavour, but it lightens the body of the beer, which what makes it really really drinkable.
Side note, I love is that his last name is Prost. Just sorry, carry on. But I was like, I can't not call out the fact that like excellent surname. 2 thumbs up.
Specific tasting notes to Westvleteren 12. In appearance, deep brown with ruby highlights and a thick creamy tan head. Aroma, dark fruits, raisin, plums, figs, caramel, toffee, brown sugar, and hints of Belgian yeast. Checks out. Taste, rich maltiness with layers of dark fruit, molasses, chocolate, and spice, balanced with subtle hot bitterness. It has a warming alcohol presence because it is 10.2%, but remains smooth. On the mouthfeel, is medium to full-bodied with soft carbonation, giving it a velvety texture. I think the thing with Belgian beers is they do tend to be slightly higher carbonation-wise. So, soft carbonation, I don't know whether I'd agree with soft carbonation, but it's not an intense carbonation, but it is a higher carbonation than than a more simple beer.
I feel like maybe I again, everyone's sort of palate's slightly different. I think for me, it's noticeable, but for me it is quite light. But yeah, it's I'm revisiting it just in case, but yeah, I would say for me it does come across on the lighter side of the carbonation. Like, it is noticeable, it's there, but
I pick up a bit more carbonation off of this than that, but also bearing in mind that I'm a cask drinker, so
I am not. Yeah, actually, that's a really interesting talking point though, because for me, this is like the smoothness you get from cask. That like that smooth, like that almost that silkiness the body, that you get from
the body is velvety,
but a step up, like it's obviously more carbonated, but for me I'm like, that's kind of that happy medium for me. So
Yeah.
I'm like, if cask tasted like that level, I'd be happy. I'd have it. But the boozy, you do get that like spicy, boozy. It's funny because it doesn't taste double digit to me, but it is very clearly in the aftertaste. It is very much a spicy, boozy warmth.
Yeah. It's good.
It's way too easy to drink. And that velvety, silkiness is just like,
yeah, it is. Velvety is definitely the word.
So good.
As we said, we are using goblets or chalices. That is the recommended beer glass, because the wide bowl and stem help enhance the beer's aroma, allowing the complex scents to develop while keeping the hands from warming the beer too quickly. I don't think my hand would warm this too quickly, because I think I'd have drunk it too quickly for it to get warm.
I have been taking, this is how much is left of mine. It's probably about
similar to
half the glass. I mean, it's only a 330ml bottle, and I think that means I'm trying extra hard. Normally we're drinking, 440ml pluses. And especially when it's like a very special beer, then normally I feel like when you get special beers, they're normally like the 500 or the like the mainline European ones, and I'm like 500 or 750 or whatever. Whereas these are just 330ml. So I'm really doing my best to not drink all of this.
Yeah.
so I can casually sip on it as we keep talking about stuff.
And I want to save a little bit for after the podcast, because I don't take many beer notes nowadays, because either I'm too busy or I just want to sit down and drink a beer. But I want to flex my beer note taking muscles and take some good notes on this one.
Yeah, I don't want to, because I find that with something like this,
you take properly extensive notes though.
Like, but I don't really do that much anymore though. I have kind of like, I don't have a middle ground. Like it's either like I'm noting down
nothing at all,
everything, or I'm just enjoying it and that's that. And I think with this, I feel like I need to get another one so I can age one, and then I can like drink another one and take notes on it.
I mean, you've been very successful at finding them, so I'm sure you can find another one.
Yeah, I don't know. Don't jinx
maybe
me
you've
now.
maybe you've had your quota.
I've peaked.
You've had your life quota.
Peaked.
You're not allowed anymore.
Yeah, no, that's it. I've had my life quota and somebody else's life quota. Like, it's not really fair. And yet, she persists. I feel like I'll find another one, because it's really nice. And what I think would be interesting is just like with all the talk about, as we'll see when I talk about people's feedback, Saint Bernardus, and like there's a bunch of different ones where they're like, oh yeah, you could have that, and that's sort of like comparative to it. I think it'd be really interesting to just do like a quad side by side, but I feel like that's such danger juice that by the end of it, forget trip traps, we're like quads and that's it, we're done, hit the floor. 4 of them. We could do the quads, and we could get like 4
quads,
and then take a nap. A long nap.
Yeah, that's not a weeknight. That's a weekend.
I feel confident I could do it, but I don't know how good my note. They're all 330ml, so it'd be all right. But like the closer to 500ml or something you get, it's like, yeah, I'm not really sure my notes are going to be reliable at that point. Like, yeah, they all taste great.
2 thumbs up.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. Right. Is there any more taste? Anything else we should know from the tasting note perspective?
That's everything you should know about it. Just know that it's delicious.
Do you want to hear about what the people have to say?
I want to hear. Can we hear the people sing? Let's hear what they have to say.
Because I think it would be interesting to see what the people have to say, because it maybe will help us as well. We'll keep it in mind for our final verdicts. So I looked across a variety of different things. So I looked at Untapped. I looked at Beer Advocate. I looked on some posts on Reddit, picked out a post on Reddit from 3 years ago, because the problem is, as I was looking through Beer Advocate and Untapped, it was like everything, there was so many check-ins of them that it's like I could scroll for ages, and we're like, oh cool, we're still in January 2025. So I was like, oh, Reddit's more reliable because I can actually pull something from a few years ago and look at those comments. So if I just first start, so for anyone that doesn't know, I feel like Untapped's pretty universal globally. Beer Advocate's very American. So I think what I've done with some of the Beer Advocate ones is I've pulled just parts of comments, because a lot of what people put on there it is much more technical than Untapped. People tend to put way more detailed notes, and they'll be like, here's the aroma, the visual of it. Like, they will break it down and be like, overall verdict. So I've just pulled out some parts, and I tried to get fair and balanced stuff, because I think universally it is known as one of the world's best beers. Like, that is not an exaggeration. I think that is what people describe it as. So starting with Untapped, do you want to guess how many reviews or check-ins of this beer?
Probably quite a lot.
Guess how many, like, digit-wise?
Like 10,000.
188,892.
Wow.
That's what I was like, how close do you think you can get it?
I have no real point of reference for how many is a lot of reviews.
To me, 188k plus.
I mean,
nearly 189k.
I mean, if you think about it, like, there is literally a badge for trying 10,000 unique beers. So, that's probably undershot quite a lot there.
Once we both check these in, and probably by the end of the night, it will probably be at 188,900, because it's so close to ticking over. That's how close it is. So yeah, the average rating out of all of those, and we're verging on like 250,000 there.
Yeah.
4.47 out of 5 is the average rating for it. So it was rated the number 1 Belgian quad of 2024. I did have, what I thought was interesting about what was on Untapped was there was a breakdown of what the ratings were per different serving styles, and I thought that was incredibly interesting, because you could see the different serving styles. So you had can, there was 201 ratings for that, and that was 4.44.
Who's got it in can? They don't even do it in can.
100%. I reckon somebody has done fucked up, and they've gone like, I mean, the 10.1%, like however many of these quads they're having, they're like, can, sure, fuck it. But 4.44, nice, lovely, even fours there across the board. Then you've got bottle, which is 124,015, 4.49. You've got draft, which is 4.48. Didn't even realise that was really an option.
I mean, maybe it's on draft at the...
Well, 1,139 people are saying so.
Maybe at the tavern?
Maybe, and an additional 18 are saying it's on cask. So don't know if I believe that, but fine. 4.31. And then you've got 2,999 tasters, which is 4.38. And I'm guessing that's like a bottle share, and somebody's gone like, instead of saying I've had it out of a bottle, I've had a taster. So fair enough. So some of the highlights there were, so I'm just going to say the username, what they've rated, and then what the comments are there. So I'm going to probably mispronounce some of these, is what it is. Ekachai M rated 4 out of 5 stars and just said, historically valuable, solid drink. I liked that they said historically valuable. I was like, yeah, that's cool, makes sense, until you were like 1940, and now I'm like, oh, they fell into that trap as well.
I mean, it is. I mean, the 1940s is history. Now.
It is, but also a little bit like,
in a different century.
This next one for the username, what I wrote note-wise for me was, literally cannot type this as it is a Cyrillic alphabet. Okay. So I was like, can't say the name because I do not know. But so the reason I put this one was just because I liked the translation to English, because I thought the translation was great. So 5 out of 5, and it said, very rich and delicious, and realizing what path it had come, his beloved Nikita followed him to a monastery in Belgium and then handed it over to Goshan in a Nissan, with whom we drank it in Kratovo. It's wonderful. And I like to think that someone drove their Nissan to the brewery, and they were like, me and my lover, Nikita, we've both gone to the monastery in our Nissan. He handed it over to me. And then we went back, we drank it somewhere. It was wonderful. So I just included that one because it just sounded cool. The next one, Luke, they really painted a picture and I loved it. The next one, Luca B, 4.25 out of 5. And this one just had me curious. I wanted to know if you knew what this meant. So it said FLN dash biscuit, esters, and a tiny bit of hops. What I couldn't work out was, what does FLN mean?
FLN.
Couldn't work out in my brain. And this was not a translated one. Just don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, well, that's for everyone to figure. If you know that one, let us know, because I want to know what
that
FLN
acronym
means.
is. Let us know.
Next one, 4F, 4.5 out of 5. Very nice beer, a bit sweeter than the WV8, which we both have, so we can taste that and confirm. Don't drink too cold. Understand that they call this the best beer in the world, but you can add the Rochefort 10, La Trappe, Q, Zundert, etc. So I kept that in because I was really interesting, because they were sort of like, yeah, they call it the best beer in the world, but try all these ones as well. Brandon H gave it a 4.75 out of 5. I like this one because it just said perfect, no notes.
Nice.
But it's like perfect, no notes, 4.7 out of 5. Like, why isn't it 5? No notes. Why isn't it 5?
Why isn't it a 5 then?
Brendan H. Come
I was about
on.
to get down with the kids and be like, it left no crumbs. That's what they say.
It left no crumbs. Yeah. Oh, I also learned, side note, I also learned that how do you make a heart? Can you, like, if you were going to, like, give me a heart, this is very visual.
Well, like,
sorry,
with my
people.
hands?
Yeah, with your hands. You have to watch a video for this.
Right.
I like the way that you've gone for it, because I would have gone like this, which is multi-fingers on the top part of the arch. Yeah. You went for solo two fingers, one finger in each hand doing the top part and the bottom. I learned today that the younger generations do things like they want to make it really complicated, and I don't think that's it. It's something like wild, where they basically use like different fingers. Or this one. This is a heart. Because it's just I'm doing for anyone that's listening. For anyone that's listening, I'm doing like, give me money. I'm giving money.
Looks like give me money.
You're being stingy. Give me money, but I'm not rubbing my fingers. That's a heart. Yeah, that's a heart. And then I think people have done weird ones, but I learned that there's the younger generations wanted to make it more complicated to do a heart gesture.
Mate,
so
I'm not down with the kids.
Yeah, so that's, it leaves no crumbs. It does all the heart gestures.
But apparently it does, because it was only 4.7.
4.7. Laurie L said 3.75 out of 5. Best beer in the world? Nah. It's good, and then in brackets, and expensive, but it's just a good quad. Still prefer some other styles over this. And then my favourite part is I left a comment here that said, appreciate that it said purchased at pornhub.com.
Interesting.
I included that one because it just made me laugh. Because I like to say, world's best? Nah. But it is good. Purchased at pornhub.com. KBG, not to be confused with the other one. 5 out of 5. Worth the hype for me. Burnt brown sugar note coming through along with Belgian yeast profile. Delicious. Side by side with Saint B12 and this one.
Oh, interesting.
So you got Francois Dewar, said 4.75 out of 5. Very special, full, creamy and complex, yet soft and accessible, which is a very special for beer with this alcohol content. The high status that this beer has is 100% justified and certainly worthwhile. Rob, for real, said 4.25 out of 5. Finally, a Westvleteren 12 to see if the hype is worth it. And it's true, a damn good beer. Mock M said 5 out of 5. It's the mimic version. I've had the mimic version of this plenty of times. And then in brackets it said St. Bernardus. But it does come close. It doesn't come close. Fantastic, deep, rich flavors. Never expected to drink this ever. I think a lot of people have felt this way. But it's really interesting because so on Beer Advocate, so we'll just look at some of the Beer Advocate ones. So the average rating on Beer Advocate was 4.61, and that was out of 6,876 ratings. It scored 100. I don't quite understand how the Beer Advocate ratings work, but I can say it ranked number 44, which is quite high, I'm assuming, on Beer Advocate. So user JColeMA66 said 5 out of 5. My bottle had a date on the cap of 10/02/15. Bottled in 2012, poured it on New Year's Day 2025. Aromas and flavors of raisins, plums, and figs, caramel, mouthfeel silky and full, sublime pour. So I mentioned that one because obviously that's quite an aged beer. And we talked about this earlier. We're like, yeah, it'll be interesting to age this. Someone has had an aged one and they were like, it's sublime. Yeah. So quite interested now in aging mine. Argok rated it a 4.5 out of 5 and said probably a month old straight from the brewery courtesy of my good friend Nate. Aroma and flavour strong with plum, raisin and medium caramel. Flavour is satisfying without being cloying or overly satiating. A little flash of fennel and a beautiful full finish with creamy feel. An incredible beer that I'm feeling lucky to have gotten to try. And then I thought I'd balance it out with Malts of Glory, who rated it 3.96 out of 5. And this is 3.96 out of... Yeah.
3.96.
That's 3.96. Yeah. I was like, hang on, am I misreading it? And then I realised, you don't have my notes.
No. So I'm like,
3.96.
Not 3.5 or 3.75, 3.96. That's very specific.
I have no idea how Beer Advocate works. So when I look up these beers and they say that, 100%. I just gaslit myself before realising you don't have these notes.
It was a question.
Yeah, 3.96 out of 5. Oddly specific. They said carbonation is very high, which is interesting. However, they went on to say, drink somewhat light. Dare I say, completely attenuated, and sweetness here is but a whisper. Hard to distinguish between the bitterness and alcohol, but it's certainly a stringent beer. Mouthfeel is abysmal at colder temps and quite reasonable at room temps. And says drinkability, IDK, they should print the serving temp in massive letters on the front. This is downright undrinkable until it significantly warms, boozier than any beer or wine I've had in years, considering I poured maybe 8 ounces into a thin glass in the middle of July, and this still took 45 minutes to become palatable. Once it warms, those deeper fruit notes come out, and it's relatively enjoyable. I'll give the benefit of doubt here, but that was ridiculous. So,
wow.
My feelings there were, you're going to give the benefit of the doubt, but ultimately what it comes down to is you haven't researched serving samples.
Right, yeah.
I asked you at the start, how long did you leave yours out of the fridge for? We both mutually left it an hour. I found that very interesting because I was like, Beer Advocate is meant to be the people where they really nerd out.
You
can't mark it down because you didn't know.
Because, but also, I feel like that person has a very particular palate and they pick up very, they said it was astringent. I don't think it is an astringent beer. I don't think there's because of the richness of the flavours and the maltiness, there isn't a huge amount of bitterness in there. So I think they're, I think that person has picks things up differently than the rest.
Also, I would like to also add, it's not written in fucking big bold letters across the front because that's a label. It says on it 12 to 16 degrees C.
Yeah.
It says next to the serving of have it out of this glass, don't have it out of this glass, serve it, don't lay it down. It says on top of it 12 to 16 degrees C.
Yeah, it does tell you.
So I'm not sure what else it could do. And this is not from a long time ago. This is from within the last few months because it would be way too hard to get old stuff.
If they had one without a label on it. But
if they did, recent, they might have bought it a while ago and maybe it didn't have it. But even so, I mean...
Also, some beer styles, not all beer styles are for all people.
Yeah.
But that was not been a beer style for that person.
That was an interesting one, and then I read this thread, which I'm not going to go into the details of it. We can share it for other people to read through. But it's just called Westvleteren 12. The hype is real, and it said basically had a Westie for the first time last night, and even with tremendous hype that surrounds the beer, I was completely blown away. It was an unbelievable experience, way above my expectations, and other Belgian Trappist beers I've already had. I could go on forever about how great it is. How was your experience? And this is from 3 years ago, and it's people's experience from 3 years ago. And it was really interesting of that, as some people had said, it's good, but I just buy St. Bernardus 12, literally from the same yeast strains, but then it goes through to be like, actually, no, that's not correct. So always validate your data. but it was just interesting of people. So one guy in particular said, or one person in particular said, Hanapu Huey said, I enjoy telling the story while doing blind tastings with friends. I think St. Benedict's is a solid beer, and I love the lesser known story about the intertwined history of the two. However, the Westie comes out on top each and every time in a blind taste test. I'll take the Westie over the St. Benedict's 12 anytime I can get my hands on it. But then went on to say, for context, I like these Belgian quads and appreciate the craftsmanship, but Belgian beers aren't my jam. As sacrilegious as that may be. So take that for what it is. But I did enjoy reading through the comments because it was just interesting of like people being like, yeah, I would take this above any of the others. And then other people being like, no, I would not take it above any of the others. Like they are all same. Like there is nothing that makes this more hype than anything else. So I thought we could share those and people could read for themselves because that seemed quite interesting. So does it sway how you feel about the beer at all?
No.
Well, before we finish and give our final thoughts, I did something fun.
Okay.
I did validate after you told me about ChatGPT basically killing villages. I did go and independently verify, and it's not quite as bad as individual searches, and some of it's not quite as bad as that. So I feel a bit better about it. So I went back to ChatGPT and I asked it some questions. Working in a company that utilizes lots of AI, I did validate before I did this because I felt guilty for the last few weeks. But I have asked ChatGPT a few different things that I thought I'd share with you because I thought it would be fun. Okay. So to start, I said if the Westvleteren 12 was a person, describe them.
Oh, okay.
So I said they would be an enigmatic, old soul, intellectual with an air of quiet confidence. They would seek attention, but their presence would be undeniable. Whispered among those in the know. Dressed in timeless, well-tailored clothing, they exude refinement without a hint of arrogance. They speak in measured, deliberate tones, offering profound insights only when necessary, making every word feel like a rare gift. They'd have a deeply contemplative nature, enjoying long evenings in dimly lit libraries or hidden jazz bars, savouring the depth of conversation as much as complexity of a well-aged bourbon. They're warm yet mysterious, approachable yet elusive, never in a rush, always appreciating the moment. Few would get the chance to meet them, and those who do would carry the memory like a secret treasure, knowing they've encountered something truly special. Does that stack up with what you're drinking?
I mean, I can imagine a Westie 12 at a jazz club.
I like that. I can as well. I also said if it was a D&D character, what would its race, class, what was race and class be, and what would their backstory be? I'm not going to read the backstory because it is quite long, interesting but long. I'll share it with you separately. But it had race, high elf.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah, same. We know what class is. And then class, knowledge cleric / rogue mastermind, background sage, and alignment true neutral. And I was like, relate. Not the cleric part, the rogue part. Chaotic neutral, but same. I guess I'm sort of neutral. Here's one. I don't know why, but I feel like you'd particularly be interested in this one. I said, which Taylor Swift eras would it be and why?
Nice. Yeah.
So it said. So I'm going to preface this with, this means nothing to me.
We still haven't had anybody explain the eras to us.
I do know what the eras mean. I do know what they mean now because someone's just like, oh, they're different.
I mean, I know they're different albums.
The different albums are like the different eras.
What, order they go in.
I don't know, but I thought that you'd appreciate this anyway, so I will preface this by I really, truly don't understand. But basically, the eras would be the Reputation era. And then it says, but not for the reasons you'd expect. Joke's on you, ChatGPT. I expect nothing because I don't understand any of this. This is like Reputation. It is shrouded in mystique, whispered about in exclusive circles, and its legend built on word of mouth rather than mass appeal. It doesn't need flashy marketing or widespread accessibility. Its prestige speaks for itself. There's an air of secrecy and exclusivity, much like how Taylor Swift retreated from the public eye before unveiling Reputation as a statement of controlled power. Both exude a sense of refinement and depth, layered, complex, and best appreciated by those willing to take the time to truly savor them. Like Reputation, it is bold but never brash, smooth but with an undeniable intensity. It's a drink and an error that rewards patience, a slow burn with a lingering and unforgettable impact.
I mean, that album's got one of my favourite Taylor Swift songs on it, so...
I don't think I know which album that is, but what's your favourite?
Ready for It.
Haven't heard that, but I'm sure it's good. Do you feel it represents this beer?
I'll take that.
Go listen to it, drink this beer, and see what you feel. My next up was, I said, using this beer as an inspiration, compile a short movie or book pitch. Okay. As a book person, think about it in book terms. Tell me if this is a book you'd read. Okay. So the title of the book is The 12th Secret. It's a mystery/historical thriller. Oh. And the pitch is, in the quiet Belgian countryside, the Abbey of St. Sixtus, that's such a tongue twister, has safeguarded a centuries-old secret, one so valuable that wars have been fought in the shadows to claim it. When a cryptic message is found inside an unmarked bottle of the legendary Westvleteren 12, renowned historian and reluctant detective Julian de Witt is drawn into a labyrinth of hidden societies, forgotten manuscripts, and an ancient pact that could rewrite history. As Julian delves deeper, he learns that the Abbey's famed beer isn't just a beverage, it's a cipher, a key to unlocking a lost alchemical formula that promises enlightenment or ruin, depending on who wields it. Hunted by a powerful organization determined to claim the secret for themselves, Julian must follow a trail of riddles etched in aging barrels, secret cellars, and forgotten monastic texts before time and his luck runs out. With danger at every turn and betrayal lurking in the most unexpected places, The 12th Secret is a rich, atmospheric thriller that blends history, intrigue, and the art of patience because, like the world's rarest beer, the truth is never easily attained. I like that tagline.
Yeah, that's a good tagline.
I think that at the very end is good. Would you read that book?
Yeah. It sounds very much like the Da Vinci Code.
Okay, do you need more smut?
No, I don't need more smut. I like a thriller, but it sounds like they've ripped off the Da Vinci Code, but I'm in.
Okay, I'll take it.
I'd read it.
I'll take it. I asked for perfect moments or hobbies that it would pair best with, and I got reading an old leather-bound book,
nice,
sitting by a fireplace on a quiet evening, watching the sunset over a scenic landscape, listening to jazz, blues, or classical music on vinyl.
It's love and jazz.
It is love and jazz. Like I read that and I went, it's really love and jazz for this. Yeah. Having a deep late night conversation. I also feel like yes, but that comes with a double-digit beer. Yeah. Like that is just the state of it. Working on an intricate hobby, that's a little bit vague for me, but fine. Sitting under the stars in quiet solitude, or a long, slow dinner with perfectly paired dishes. I asked for a few more things, so the next one is a short inspirational poem. Do you want to hear it?
Yes, I would like to hear the short inspirational poem.
It's called Whispers in a Glass.
Oh.
It's a dramatic reading. A monk's old vow, a secret kept. Through years of silence, patience slept. Amber deep as autumn's glow, a tale of time in liquid flow. Dark fruit lingers, whispers slow, of toffee spices and echoes low. A fleeting sip, yet bold it stays, like legends told in firelight haze. Not brewed for fame, nor praise nor gold, but for ones who seek, who hold. A moment still, a breath a taste, a life well savoured, none to waste. Thank you. That is a dramatic reading. And then I'm going to give you my final thing, which I was really particularly excited about.
Okay.
So I asked it to give me some interesting facts that were fake. Because I didn't want real facts. I was like, I don't want real fun facts. I said, could you give me 5... This is the prompt. Could you please create 5 wild and untrue but believable facts that could be spread as fake news about Westvleteren 12? And I specified the more ridiculous and funny but potentially hard to disprove, the better.
The better.
It gave me like 5 and I was like, so like, let me give you one. Drinking it can grant temporary clairvoyance. I was not happy with those.
No.
I was like, that's not going to spread fake news. So I said, could you please adjust them so that they're more strange, less paranormal, and more believable. The fact, and I specifically said, these facts should make people say, I can't believe that, that's wild, while also being close enough to believable that somebody wouldn't immediately disbelieve it.
Okay.
So these are the ones we've come up with. But cut out that bit where I said they're not true. Let's take that out.
Yeah.
We're going to spread fake news. Okay. Joe, do you want to hear some very true facts about...
Yes, I want to know some very true...
Some really cool, fun facts about
yes.
Westvleteren 12 that are not made up.
I would love to hear those.
Top 5. Number 1, it is brewed with barley from a specific field that can only be harvested every 7 years. This is 100% true. So it says the monks only use a specific variety that grows in small secret field location located near the abbey. It's harvested only once every 7 years when the barley reaches the perfect maturity to create its signature flavour. Because of its rare harvest cycle, there is limited supply available for the beer. And that's how they ensure that it's used for brewing this beer.
Okay.
It's fun fact number 1. The entirely true fun fact number 1.
Yeah,
number 2, the recipe was once accidentally lost for 20 years. Oh no! They misplaced it during a period of transition in the abbey. And it wasn't until a monk found an old notebook tucked away in the attic that the recipe was rediscovered. And then they had to spend several years perfecting the recipe again to reach the flavour profile we know today.
Oh.
Disprove that. Disprove that, guys. You won't be able to because they don't do brewery tours. Number 3. The beer's flavour is directly affected by the abbey's weather patterns.
Okay.
You were like,
end of fact.
Well, I mean,
I was expecting more detail.
Okay, fine. So the distinctive taste is heavily influenced by the weather conditions surrounding the abbey, and the monks have noticed that in the years with particularly mild summers and colder than average winters, the beer's flavour profiles become more complex and smooth. Some have speculated that the atmospheric pressure, combined with the abbey's remote location, plays a role in creating the signature flavour, making each batch unique depending on the year's climate. Why atmospheric pressure? You can't argue with that.
You can't argue with
Fact. Yeah. Disprove that. I am not a meteorologist, so I simply couldn't do that. Number 4, it is brewed in small batches that must be finished within 6 weeks of brewing. So it says, unlike most beers that are brewed and aged for longer periods, it's brewed in very small batches and must be consumed or sold within 6 weeks of brewing. If it's not sold or consumed within this window, sold or consumed, the monks destroy the unsold beer. This strict brewing and distribution timeline ensures that every bottle is as fresh as possible and maintains the flavour profile intended by the monks. The method also adds to the rarity and desirability of the beer because you know that they're all about making that paper.
Yeah.
As we just learned.
They want the monies.
Mm-hmm. So you got to make it rare so that you can get that money. And then the final fact, which is personally my favourite one, if I had to say.
Okay.
Each bottle of Westvleteren 12 is personally blessed by a monk before it's sold. So every single bottle individually is carefully blessed by one of the monks. It's a ritual that is done quietly and with reverence, and it's said to imbue the beer with a touch of the abbey's spiritual atmosphere. It doesn't affect the taste directly, but it has become an important tradition for the monks, and some people believe it's at least part of the reason the beer has such an air of exclusivity and perfection.
They were good.
Did you enjoy those fun, very real facts?
Those. I feel like maybe not the real facts, but I feel like the others we should maybe do as a standard when we do one of these episodes. We have to find those things out.
What? Ask them for like what's the most realistic, what's the most outrageous you can get that somebody would believe that is true.
Yeah, or like just like. I think we set those as our template, right? So next time we do a beer bucket list episode, we're like, what's its Taylor Swift era? What is it like as a person?
Fine. I liked the very real, not fake news facts. I quite like that one. I did ask it about a cocktail though. To be fair, I did ask it about like what cocktail it would make.
You can't make this into a cocktail.
Yeah, but see, that's why I wasn't going to share that. But then I scrolled down and I was like, oh, I did ask it about that. But I did say I was respectful. Okay. I was respectful. I said, could you propose a beer cocktail using this as a base so that the beer itself shines and isn't ruined? It needs to be a cocktail name, ingredient, and taste and description worth worthy of a holy grail of beers, what would you call it, and what would be in it and why? So it's called the Trappist's Blessing. The ingredients are, and this actually came out of something else, like I'd quite like to try that. An ounce of dark Belgian candy syrup, which we sort of mentioned somewhat similar things earlier.
Yeah.
2 dashes of the Angostura bitters to bring up the subtle spices, 1 ounce aged dark rum, and the beer to top it off. And I was like, that actually sounds really, really nice.
Yeah, I'd drink that.
I would drink that as well. And it feels like somebody will murder me in my sleep for suggesting this get put into a cocktail.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to give me a bottle, I will make it for us both. Like, if somebody wants to say to me, you didn't have to pay for this bottle, it's not liability, it's not on you, I will make it for the both of us.
Nice.
As in me and the person that provides it, not me and you. Not me and you.
Yeah.
I'm not like, give me a bottle.
I get there.
I'm not like, give me a bottle and
don't
I will take it to Joe's.
Yeah, you don't get to be part of the cocktail.
If somebody wants to donate a bottle just to try it out, I'm willing to give it a go. But there you go. What's your final verdict on where we're sitting now at this?
I mean, it's a really good beer. I think if you can get your hands on it, you should definitely try it. I think it is it's a good beer. Like, I think it's probably worth the hype. I don't think it's worth breaking the bank to buy it, because St. Benedict's is a good Belgian quad if you want to, it's equally as good a commercial example. But I think if you want to try a really good beer and just get on that, on that train of trying something that's exclusive, this is the one for you. It's a good beer.
We need to get another bottle and do a blind tasting.
I know, we didn't think of that, did we?
I can't. Well, I thought about it when I was doing the research, but then I kind of went, it's too late now.
Yeah, it's too late.
This train's rolling. It's in action, and I'm not willing to donate.
I've got my empty bottle of St. Benedict's here because I've got one of the Winking Monks.
I'm not willing to donate the extra bottle I have to do a blind tasting.
No.
I want to age it. But if I can get another amount of bottles, I would love to do blind tasting. I think it'd be really fun to just blind taste a few of the quads together and be like,
see which one's the favourite.
What's actually the best? What's the favourite?
It's good beer, peeps.
So I would say I would agree, worth the hype in my opinion. But actually, I did ask. What I will say is, I did ask people on Facebook, not on Facebook, on my Instagram, and I said, if you've tried it, did you think it was worth the hype? Yeah. And I had like 10 different people answer it. And I would say, like, out of 5, I don't really know the best way. If you're watching the video, you can kind of see that there. I would say the best way out of suggesting it is, out of a scale of 5, it was probably like a 4.
Yeah.
So there's like one person was like, not worth the hype at all. And then like a few people that were like middle ground, and then closer to the end. And only like 2 people, 3 people were all in. All the rest were some varying levels. So I think worth the hype personally. Yeah. But again, I agree with you. I wouldn't break the bank for it. But if the opportunity presents, I would try not to avoid it if I could afford it. Because it's an interesting try at least once.
Yeah. All right. There you go, peeps. This is our first bucket list beer episode. Tori, if people want to get hold of you and suggest beers that we could do on our bucket list beer episodes, where can they get hold of you? Yeah, please make sure you actually suggest ones we can get a hold of. Don't be like, these are ones that are nearly impossible and you have to sell a kidney for, because we do this podcast for free and we can't afford to sell kidneys for this. No. I'm scared of needles and I've never even... I can't be doing that. But if you want to drop me a message and tell me your thoughts on it, you can find me at adventures_in_optimism on Instagram. I have my blog website now, which I did actually write one of my bucket list beers. I haven't posted it yet because mentally, every time I've gone to edit it, I've gone, look, there's something shiny and different to do other than sit here and edit my post. But you can find those posts over at adventuresinoptimism.com, or you can email me at adventuresinoptimism@gmail.com.
If you want to message Joe and I, this is now bi-weekly. I've already had feedback. Ruth's already mentioned feedback-wise. Can we talk more about recycling? She found that riveting. She really enjoyed that. So she said, if we're going to make it bi-weekly, at least can we have in the opposite week recycling chat? If you've got some more feedback for us, you don't want to see it be bi-weekly, or maybe bi-weekly is too much and you're like a monthly, please, you can find both of us at A Woman's Brew on Instagram, Facebook, X. No, we're actually not really on X anymore, are we? I've got Blue Sky. I just haven't really done anything with it. Or you can email us if you want to suggest somebody for us to talk to. You can email us at awomansbrewpodcast@gmail.com. We do have our website, awomansbrewpod.beer. .beer. So you can also message us through there, and eventually I'll try to just make sure we're putting little things on there of what we're up to, so we can put about our International Women's Collaboration Brew Day, for example, share some nice photos. Joe, if people want to talk to you about your experience of trying the quads for your palate, where can people talk to you?
You can get hold of me. I am on Instagram. I'm Love Beer Learning. I'm pretty much just on Instagram, so just come see me there. I'm on Facebook as well, but I'll respond to you on Instagram if you really want to talk to me. You can also come to my website, which is lovebeerlearning.co.uk. The website, the blog there does have some various different beer style posts on there that you might want to look at. I don't think it's got one about quads, but it has got ones about various different ones on there. Or you can email me, lovebeerlearning@gmail.com. All right, let's go. Finish this delight
my baby
over here. Thank you for getting it for me.
Cheers.